Most people will die without ever discovering who they really were. That is not an exaggeration. It is what the data of human experience shows. An entire life consumed by building, defending, and sustaining an identity, a name, a story, a personality, without ever asking where that identity came from, without ever asking who is behind it. You have been calling yourself I for decades. You know your name, your profession, your story. But if someone asked you right now who you are without any of that, could you answer? Because there is something you call I in this moment that is probably not you. Not really. And before you keep watching, answer this honestly. If everything you call I can change, who exactly is there right now? There was a moment when you had no name, no personality, no story. You were pure experience, sensation, presence, perception, without a label. No baby is born knowing it is someone. No baby is born with shame, pride, or a self-image to protect. All of that came later. It came slowly in layers. First, the name repeated thousands of times until it became an identity. Then the stories. You are shy, you are smart, you are like this. Then the roles: son, student, professional, partner, and you learned to respond as that someone, to behave as that someone, to feel as that someone, until the point where you can no longer tell who is responding, you or the character you learned to be. Most people believe they have a personality because they were born with it, that they are introverted, extroverted, brave, or insecure by nature. But neuroscience tells a different story. The human brain is extraordinarily plastic. It shapes itself from the environment, from repetition, from the responses it received in its earliest experiences. Every time you reacted a certain way and received approval or rejection, your nervous system took note. Every time an emotion was allowed or suppressed, your system learned what was safe to feel. What you call your personality is, for the most part, a set of learned patterns for surviving in a specific environment. It is not who you are. It is who you learn to be. And the difference between those two things is enormous, because one can change and the other never did. The problem is not having an identity. The problem is not realizing that it is an identity. When you get angry, it is the character getting angry because something threatened the image it has of itself. When you feel pride, it is the character feeling pride because something confirmed the story it tells about itself. When you feel fear, most of the time it is the character's fear of ceasing to exist, of being ignored, rejected, forgotten. Your entire emotional life has passed through that filter without you ever noticing. And the tragedy is not that this happened. The tragedy is that most people go all the way to the end without ever asking. Is there something in me that is watching all of this? Is there something that was here before the character began and that is still here now? Think about how much time and energy you have spent protecting your image, defending your reputation, reacting when someone challenged you, feeling offended when someone did not recognize who you are. There is a part of you that is constantly on alert, checking whether the identity is safe, whether it is being respected, whether it is being confirmed by the world around you. Psychologists call this the defensive ego. Philosophers call it attachment to identity. And the spiritual traditions of the world, in different ways, arrived at the same observation thousands of years ago. That you defend with such intensity is the least solid thing that exists in you, because it changes all the time. And you know that even if you do not want to admit it, you are not the same person you were 10 years ago. Not just physically, your opinions change, your values change, your certainties change. What you once defended with conviction, today you may see differently. The person you were at 20 would make completely different decisions from the ones you make today. And 10 years from now, you will probably look at the eye of today and recognize patterns you still cannot see. That is not weakness. It is the nature of the constructed identity. It is made of thoughts, and thoughts change. It is made of memories, and memories shift every time they are accessed. It is made of stories, and stories can be written. If you stop the flow of thoughts for just a moment, where is the I. There is a simple mental experiment that contemplative masters have used for centuries. It works like this. Sit in silence and try to find the I. Not the thought about the I itself. Look for it the way you would look for an object. Where is it? Does it have a form? Does it have a location? You will notice something unsettling. The more you look for the I, the less you can find it. What you find are thoughts about the I, sensations in the body, memories, emotions. But the I itself, the subject experiencing all of this, seems to retreat every time you try to point at it. Neuroscientist Antonio spent decades studying consciousness and reached a conclusion that echoes what the contemplatives had already said. The I is not a thing, it is a process, a constant construction. It is not who you are, it is what you do at every moment. And if it is a process, then there is something that observes it. Something that is not the process. Back at the beginning of the 20th century, a 16-year-old boy in southern India had an experience that changed his life forever. Sitting alone, he was overtaken by a sudden terror of death, the certainty that he was going to die at that very moment. Instead of running from the feeling, he did something no one around him would have done. He became completely still and asked with complete honesty, "If I am dying, what exactly is dying?" "The body will stop." But who is aware that the body will stop? Who is here watching all of this? That young man was Ramana Maharshi, and that question, "Who am I?" became the center of every teaching he offered for the rest of his life. Not as philosophy, as direct investigation. He said it was not necessary to learn anything new. It was only necessary to look honestly at what is already present. The consciousness that perceives everything, that never came in and never left. That was here before the first thought of this morning, and will be here after the last. The Advaita Vedanta tradition has a concept that has no precise equivalent in any Western language. Sakshi, the witness, not a soul, not a higher self, not a separate entity. Simply the consciousness that observes, the presence that perceives the thought without being the thought, that perceives the emotion without being the emotion, that perceives the body without being the body. Ramana described it like this. There is a mirror that reflects everything. The mirror is not the images that appear in it, but without the mirror, nothing could appear. You have spent your entire life fascinated by the images. You never looked at the mirror. And the reason is simple. The mirror makes no noise. It asks for nothing. It claims nothing. It simply is in silence, stable, always present. But if you pause for a moment, not to think about this, but to check directly, you will notice that there is something here that is perceiving these words right now. Something that did not arrive with the thoughts and will not leave with them. This is what Ramana called the real self, not the constructed I. And yes, what is behind everything? The most radical teaching of Ramana Maharshi was not a technique. It was a statement that most people take years to absorb. You already are what you are looking for. The problem is not that pure consciousness is hidden or distant or available only to the enlightened. The problem is that you are so busy being the character that you never stop to notice. There is something observing the character. He compared it to a person searching the entire room for their glasses while the glasses are on their face. The spiritual search, when conducted correctly, does not end with an arrival. It ends with the recognition that there was never a departure. What you are, the consciousness, the witness, the Sakshi, never went anywhere, was never hurt, was never born, will never die. You simply never stopped long enough to notice what has always been here. The entire civilization was built, for the most part, around the fear of death. Religions, philosophies, medicine, technology, everything in some way responds to the terror of ceasing to exist. But Nisargadatta Maharaj, a simple man who sold cigarettes in Mumbai and who never went to school, made an observation that brings the entire structure down. He said, "You are afraid of dying because you believe you were born, but you were not born. The body was born. The personality was born. The story was born. You, the consciousness that perceives all of this, never enter time. And what never entered time cannot leave. The fear of death is real, but it is pointing at the wrong thing. You are not afraid that consciousness will end. You are afraid that the character will end. And that is a difference that changes everything. Nisargadatta spent years answering questions from people all over the world who came to his small apartment in Mumbai. And one of the things he repeated most insistently was this: the tragedy is not death. The tragedy is living an entire life without knowing who you are. You can accumulate wealth, relationships, experiences, knowledge. You can be loved, respected, remembered, and still have lived entirely identified with the character, entirely from the outside in, without ever touching what lies beneath everything. He said that most people spend their lives rearranging the furniture in a house that is on fire, fixing the character, improving the character, defending the character, while what is real, the consciousness behind all the drama, waits in silence, without rush, because it knows it is not going anywhere. The last thing Nisargadatta left was simple. Not a doctrine, not a system, not an elaborate practice. A direct instruction: remain in the sense of being, not in the thought about being in the living sense that you exist right now. That sense, I am, is the doorway. Not I am a teacher, I am a father, I am anxious, just I am, before any qualification, before any story. That pure sense of existence is the closest the mind can get to what you really are, and it is available right now. It requires no journey, no guru, no abandonment of anything. It only requires that you pause for a moment and notice that there is something here that is perceiving that there was something here before this sentence began. And that something has no intention of going anywhere. Most people will die without having answered that question. Not because the answer is impossible to find, but because they never stopped long enough to truly ask. You just did. And if something inside you recognized what was said here, not as new information, but as something you somehow already knew, then perhaps the search does not need to begin. Perhaps it has already ended. The question is not who you were. It is who is here right now, before any answer. If this changed how you see yourself, subscribe to our channel. There is more where this came from.